And I love that picture. Audrey Whitehead, this mic is all yours.
Oh, thank you, Lynn, so much. Yeah, I just had some pictures. I saw that one and it was like, oh yeah, that's the one for today. And today we're continuing reading Living A Course in Miracles, Dr. John, an essential guide to the classic text. Dr. John Mundy, PhD. And we're on chapter 4 in the book, which is on page 25, which is called The Story of Salvation, the main characters. Alan Watts gives the quote, "A myth is an image in terms of which we try to make sense of the world." And that reminds me that, you know, everything is just a pointer here to the truth. All words, pointers. I give the meaning I give to the words, to everything I see. So the Gospel of Matthew says that Jesus never spoke without using parables. In fact, Matthew says he always taught using parables. Matthew 13, verse 34. According to the American mythologist Joseph Campbell, the one great story played out in all mythic literature is the monomyth. Life is not just a matter of sleeping, eating, earning a living, raising a family, and dying. A hero or heroine is called to go forth on a search from the world of everydayness to the fulfillment of a spiritual destiny. The hero is looking to fulfill a mission often understood as finding the entrance to the kingdom of heaven. Inevitably, a variety of trials and difficulties are encountered along the way, and the hero falls prey to the tricks of his own ego. Often, as in the story of the prodigal son, the hero experiences some sort of failure, some crash and burn, some sort of emotional breakdown and breakthrough. Having reached the bottom of the pit and giving up on doing things on his own, the hero comes to awakening, surrenders his own will, and turns things over to a higher authority. In many stories, the hero or heroine encounters a guide, a book, a map, a teaching, or they simply become more deeply aware of their own inner teacher, which is beautiful here that John states this here, because there isn't just one way to truth, because all the ways are pointers to that truth. And each pointer is given as is needed for that one's expression, that one's understanding. And it is there to be seen, but it doesn't mean it will be seen until that vessel is available fully and are able to see the signs so that they can become more deeply aware of them. That's my belief. Or my experience has shown me that. So then I believe and trust in that. This guide shows the hero the way home through a process of gradual purification, a relinquishing of the old ways, and a reunification of the spiritual self. That's so beautiful because it is gradual. And for this one, it's just beautiful to see the gentleness of giving me the 180 to life's experience. So I can see that I have living the opposite belief. And so neither are true to me, because I've been in the experience of both, having had it in this mind, we could say wrongly. However, I don't believe that now, because even though maybe I was in the quote unquote wrong mind, I just believe in the higher level, it's not wrong. It was right, although that is important for me to see the contrast. So I guess in a sense, I'm seeing level confusion. I can see where I've had that, and that levels have become because of experience, I can understand and see that knowledge. That makes sense. I think I should check Pal Talk just in case people are yelling, saying, no, that's not it. Okay, everybody. Okay, I don't have YouTube pulled up. So. But I guess, no, that's not it. I guess it's because I want to be true to A Course in Miracles and what it's teaching, while also hearing my own guidance, which is, I guess, what we're all here doing. So it's all good. More deeply aware of their own inner teacher. This guide shows us the way home through a process of gradual purification, a relinquishing of the old ways. It's just so easy to give those up now. And a reunification of the spiritual self with the capital S. The task is to integrate their new wisdom into practical everyday life. Though the pathway is highly individualized, it leads everyone ultimately to oneness, love, truth, home, God, eternity. All such words being some synonyms. Synonyms. I love cinnamon too. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, a very old story, the Hymn of the Pearl. Before we look into the story, of course, let's look at a brief rendition of one of the oldest stories in the world. Reflective of the message in A Course in Miracles, the Hymn of the Pearl is an old Syrian story, even much older than the 3rd century text, the Act of Thomas, in which it was found. Well, this is very interesting to me because my dad and my grandma, my past grandma, they were from Syria before it became whatever the country was, but it's not, there isn't a country now called Syria as I understand it, but they were Syrian. So this is very interesting to hear an old Syrian story. So I'm going to have to ask my dad if grandma ever talked to him about this, because she was very spiritual, my grandmother. Okay, a young man dwells in a marvelous rich kingdom. His parents sent him on a mission with provisions, great yet light. Provisions, right? Food. So that he can carry them. Before he leaves, he removes his robe of glory and splendid mantle. In his heart is inscribed a message concerning his mission. He is to obtain a pearl of wisdom lying in the middle of a sea, encircled by a snorting serpent. Making his way downward, he is accompanied at first by 2 royal envoys. The way is dangerous and hard, and he is young. Having reached his new world, he disguises himself in a body like those around him, and he keeps to himself until he recognizes an older, anointed one with whom he develops a mutual trust. His friend tries to warn him about the unclean ones who, when they see that he is not a countryman, ingratiate themselves against him. But he falls prey to the unclean ones who, with cunning, mix drinks and give him their meat. He falls asleep and becomes unaware of his mission. He forgets that he is a king's son. He forgets the pearl of wisdom. His parents learn of all that befalls their son and write a letter that calls him to awaken, rise out of sleep, break free of his bondage, and remember his destiny. The letter comes in the form of an eagle, which becomes holy speech. At its voice, he awakens, embraces the letter, breaks its seal, and recalls in his heart the words of his father. He remembers that he is a king's son, a freeborn soul. He remembers the pearl and the snorting serpent. Going to the serpent, he charms it to sleep by repeating to it his father's name. Seizing the pearl, he repairs for home, leaving behind his impure garment. The voice of the letter now guides him with its light, discourages his fears, and with its light draws him homeward. He had forgotten the robe of glory he had left behind in his youth. Seeing it again, it becomes a mirror image of himself. Myself entirely I saw in it, and it entirely I saw in myself. Clothed in his robe, he ascends to the gates of salutation, and adores the splendor of his father, who had sent him on the mission and whose command he has now fulfilled. Let's interpret or demythologize this story. So we came into this world retaining in our heart the memory of our parents who send us on a mission. We are to discover, remember, our true identity as a freeborn soul or spirit, disguising ourselves in bodies like those around us, the quote unquote unclean ones, or the ego-driven world, mix drink with cunning and give us their meat. They tell us their story of the world and seduce us into dreaming their dream. Becoming enamored with the dream world, we fall into mindlessness and think our dream is reality. We forget our mission. We forget that we are in fact children of God. Our parents, seeing that we sleep, write a letter that calls us to awaken. The letter might be the Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, the Tao Te Ching, A Course in Miracles, or any form of inspiration or wisdom teaching. The voice of the letter becomes holy speech, and upon hearing its message, we begin our awakening. Charming the serpent, the ego, to sleep, we regain the pearl of wisdom. And in remembrance of our true identity as freeborn souls, we leave behind our impure garments, our bodies, and return home to our Father. Wow, I love that. I love that parable. It's very, it's just clear that, that again, you know, the serpent is pointing to something. It's pointing to something that we have called the ego now, maybe just different words pointing to this insane narrator of mind. That's what I read that to be. So that's so beautiful. I love that. Introducing the characters in this play. Oh boy, you get to meet all the characters. Lebanon. Vicky Pope is Syrian or Lebanese. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to read that in Palatalk. Thank you, Lynn. Okay, introducing the characters in the play. Operas. I at first read that as Oprah. Maybe Oprah does too, who knows. Operas sometimes begin with an opening overture or scenes that are going to come. Let's begin by familiarizing ourselves with some words organized, not alphabetically, but rather by way of an outline of the basic story and practical teachings of the course. Let's look at the characters in the play, the basic theme of the course, the plot, and the solution to the problem presented in this quote unquote story. God is one of the most frequent words in the course. Helen described a dream or vision in which she found herself at the entrance to a cave. Going in, she found an old scroll. Opening the scroll, she saw the word God is in the center panel of the text. Little letters began to appear to the left and the right of the center panel, and she knew that by rolling the scroll to the left, she would be able to look into the past, and by rolling the scroll to the right, she would be able to look into the future. She decided, however, to leave it just where it was. Excuse me. And she heard a voice that said, "You made it that time. Thank you." We could just leave it as God is. The ego, the would-be culprit in our story, tempts us to roll out the scroll. And the moment we do, we are trapped in time, in a drama, in a story. Our drama is filled with an unending series of problems, like a character in an Indiana Jones movie. We, the ego, go from one challenging adventure, problem to another. God, or love, is indescribable and far beyond our definition. The Buddha refused to define God, saying it could not be done. Try defining God. You can't do it. Define love. You can't do it. The Course is trying to help us remember that which is formless and abstract. The ego would remind us of that which is concrete and delimited by space and time. The concrete part of the mind believes in the ego, and the ego depends on the concrete. That's in text chapter 4. God is divine abstraction. God is mind. God is life. God is love. The more alive we are, the more in love we are. The more in love we are, the more alive we are. The more we know of God. Life, love, truth, God cannot be delimited. God, the giver of life, is described in the Course as the Father. The Father has a Son called Christ. You are the Son of God. We are all sons and daughters of God. God's will for us, all of us, is perfect happiness, which is often described as peace, joy, innocence, and freedom. I know when I was growing up, or throughout this life, as I do to move the scroll to look back. I just could see how there was so much confusion in this one of my role as a parent and how I wanted to love as God would love, and how disappointed I would be in my own self when that just didn't show up, and when this angry person came about spewing the serpent sick, ugh, sick words, you know, I just couldn't believe some of the things that could come out of this mouth. And just, you know, wanting to be as God, like, how can I be as the God I know in my mind, not the one I was studying in the Christian Bible that said that God would, you know, kill us and love us. I didn't believe that, because there was no way in hell I could feel that way and not be of God. I just couldn't fathom that being truth. And so I just kept going, and I can see now how happy I am that knowing was within his mind. I didn't believe that I was that evil, mean person. And just being able to give that compassion now, you know, and just even when other people, if I see other people in that space, I can hear when my husband said to me, I said to him, how could you stay with me for so long? Like, because I had, you know, I drank and there were a lot of things happening that I couldn't believe he would still love me, even though that happened. And his words, his answer was, well, I knew that wasn't you. I knew that wasn't you. And I guess I knew that wasn't me. So it's just beautiful that to be shown that. And even though I know it's a story or a parable, it's a comforting one and it's helpful. And so to me, that leads me to truth, is the truth of the peace, the joy, the innocence, and freedom that comes with healing this mind. Thank you. So we're going to go on to the next paragraph here. The Holy Spirit is the voice for God, the Christ mind, the light, the bridge to heaven, and the communication link between us and God. It is a thought in my mind which helps me to understand my right mind. It is thus a memory in the mind of God's Son. This memory has never been lost, only clouded over with our mindless dreaming of the world. The Holy Spirit is the motivation for miracle-mindedness. He is God's answer to separation, text chapter 5, and the decision to heal the separation. He sees our fearful perceptions and tries to help us through them. He is in us in a very literal sense. He is the inner teacher, comforter, guide, healer, and mediator. And from text chapter 5, the voice of the Holy Spirit does not command, because it is incapable of arrogance. It does not demand, because it does not seek control. It does not overcome, because it does not attack. It merely reminds. It is compelling only because of what it reminds you of. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Jesus is one who remembered who he was as spirit. So it's telling us, we got God is what God, the Holy Spirit is, Jesus is one remembered who, the one who remembered who he was as spirit. He remembered his identity. John chapter 10, I and the Father are one in the Bible. He was a man who saw the face of Christ, which is only goodness in all his brothers and sisters, and thus remembered God. Jesus is also the I in the chorus, as in, you can do anything I ask. I have asked you to perform miracles. And I'm reminded that miracles are a shift in perspective, in the mind's perspective or perception. And we move on to, oh, what? It's already noon? I just looked up and the clock says noon. Oh my goodness, that was so quick, you guys. All right, well, I guess I'll stop at, we got God is, Holy Spirit is, Jesus is, and we'll continue on with more characters next week. Thank you so much, everybody.
It's great to hear you, and thank you so much. And good, it's so interesting to hear your story. And I just know you as the sweet, gentle Audrey that is just a sweetheart. And so when I hear you saying things about yourself, I'm like, oh my goodness, you are the most innocent person I know, and I love you so much. Thank you, Audrey.
And it's really hearing me. I love hearing you, Maria. Really do.
Thank you, guys. I love you. I know it's just not me that did those things, and it's all good. Thank you.
I love it. Yeah, I know that was not you. I love it. All right. Thank you, Audrey Whitehead, and we will see you again next week. Hopefully we'll see you tonight at our study of the Manual for Teachers for A Course in Miracles.